In every major city across the globe, hidden in plain sight, buildings stand without obvious purpose, their doors closed to the uninitiated. Within these walls, stretching back across centuries, a single name resonates with profound mystery and power. That name is Freemasonry. It conjures images of clandestine meetings, ancient symbols, and influential figures shaping nations from behind a veil of secrecy. For some, it represents a benevolent fraternity, dedicated to charity, moral uprightness, and mutual support. A harmless society for men of good standing. To others, however, Freemasonry evokes a far more sinister image. They see a secret society with a hidden agenda, a shadowy cabal that pulls the strings of power, ruling from the darkness. Members occupy the highest echelons of government, finance, and culture, working in concert to advance mysterious goals. The narrative of a secret government has been persistent and compelling, fueling suspicion and fear for generations. The chasm between these perceptions is vast and deep, leaving the world to wonder where the truth lies. Is it a philanthropic organization making good men better, or the hidden hand guiding world history? What is Freemasonry really? Where did it come from? What's behind its cryptic symbols like the all-seeing eye or the square and compass? These touch upon fundamental questions of power, influence, and secrecy in modern society. The most pressing question that fuels countless books, documentaries, and late-night discussions is this: what are they hiding? The structure of Freemasonry, with its guarded rituals, degrees of initiation, and oaths of silence, seems designed to conceal something of great importance. This deliberate obscurity creates a vacuum filled with speculation, myth, and accusation. This investigation will embark on a journey into the heart of this mystery, seeking to peel back the layers of legend to understand one of history's most enigmatic organizations. Our journey begins by acknowledging the sheer scale and persistence of the Masonic legacy. Think of any major historical event in the last 300 years, from revolutions that toppled monarchies to the founding of new nations, and you will likely find the hands of Freemasons at work. Their influence seems to echo through the corridors of power, their symbols are etched into the very architecture of our cities, and their philosophy has been said to underpin the Enlightenment values that shaped the modern world. Yet for an organization so deeply embedded in our history, its core truths remain remarkably elusive, protected by a code of silence that has been upheld for centuries by its members. The central conflict surrounding Freemasonry is the stark contrast between its public face and its private nature. Publicly, it presents itself as a system of morality, veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols. Members often speak of brotherhood, relief, and truth as their guiding principles. They point to their extensive charitable work, their hospitals, and their community initiatives as proof of their positive contributions to society. This is the Freemasonry of parades, public cornerstone-laying ceremonies, and local lodges that appear to be little more than social clubs for community-minded men seeking fellowship and a path to self-improvement. It is a respectable and open part of many communities. However, beneath this veneer of normalcy lies a world of ritual and secrecy that has consistently attracted suspicion. Initiation ceremonies are conducted behind locked doors, where candidates are led through symbolic experiences meant to impart profound moral and philosophical lessons. These rituals involve oaths, secret handshakes, and passwords that bind the members together in a shared, private experience. Critics argue that this secrecy is not merely for ceremonial effect, but serves to create a powerful bond of loyalty that can transcend allegiance to one's country, employer, or even family, potentially creating a state within a state with its own hidden laws. This documentary will delve into this duality, examining the evidence from both sides of the debate. We will explore the organization's historical roots, tracing its lineage from the medieval guilds of stonemasons to the speculative lodges of the 18th century. We will decipher its most famous symbols and analyze its most sacred rituals, seeking to understand their intended purpose. We will investigate the claims of immense power and the persistent conspiracy theories that have shadowed the craft for its entire existence. This is not just a historical account, it is an investigative journey into the shadows, a quest to separate fact from fiction and to understand the truth behind the mystery. The story of Freemasonry, as we understand it today, does not begin in a grand hall filled with philosophers and aristocrats, but in the muddy, chaotic construction sites of medieval Europe. Its origins are deeply practical, rooted in the craft of the stonemason, the skilled artisans who possessed the secret knowledge of geometry and engineering required to build the great cathedrals, castles, and monuments that defined the medieval landscape. These were not common laborers. They were the master builders, the architects of their age. Their guilds, known as lodges, were originally temporary shelters built on site where they could rest, eat, and most importantly, protect the valuable secrets of their trade from outsiders. These operative masons, as they were called, developed a sophisticated system to safeguard their craft. Their knowledge was their livelihood, a precious commodity that could not be written down for fear of it falling into the wrong hands. Instead, it was transmitted orally from master to apprentice through a series of rituals and tests. They used secret signs, grips, and words to identify fellow craftsmen and to ensure that only qualified masons were employed on a project. This system served a dual purpose. It maintained high standards of workmanship and protected their wages and employment prospects. It was a practical framework of secrecy born from necessity, a way to control their profession in an era without patents or formal certifications. Over centuries, however, a profound transformation began to occur. As the great age of cathedral building waned, the number of operative stonemasons declined. The lodges, these hubs of secret knowledge and fraternity, started to admit men who were not actual workers in stone. These new members were known as accepted or speculative masons. They were gentlemen, thinkers, merchants, and members of the burgeoning intellectual class, drawn not to the practical craft of building with stone, but to the moral and philosophical symbolism that could be derived from the stonemason's tools and traditions. The square became a symbol of morality, the compass a tool for circumscribing one's desires. This evolution from operative to speculative masonry marked a crucial turning point in the organization's history. The focus shifted from the literal building of physical structures to the metaphorical building of a better self and a better society. The lodge was no longer just a worksite shelter but a temple of moral instruction, a place for men to gather and explore concepts of virtue, equality, and enlightenment through the rich allegory of the stonemason's art. This transition laid the essential groundwork for the formal establishment of modern Freemasonry, transforming a medieval trade guild into a philosophical society that would soon spread across the entire globe with astonishing speed. The official birth of modern Freemasonry can be pinpointed to a specific day and place, June 24, 1717, St. John the Baptist's Day, at the Goose and Gridiron Ale House in London. On this historic day, 4 existing lodges from across the city came together to form a central governing body, the First Grand Lodge of England. This event was a revolutionary act. It took what had been a loose, decentralized network of independent lodges, each with its own customs and rituals, and united them under a single authority. This consolidation provided structure, standardized practices, and gave the fraternity a public face and a newfound legitimacy that it had previously lacked. The formation of the Grand Lodge was more than just an administrative change. It signaled a fundamental shift in the purpose and character of the fraternity. It was the definitive moment when speculative masonry triumphed over its operative ancestor. The leaders and members of these founding lodges were not stonemasons but men of the Enlightenment, scholars, deists, and social reformers who saw Freemasonry as a vehicle for promoting their ideals of reason, tolerance, and universal brotherhood. They were creating a space where men of different religious and political backgrounds could meet on equal footing, a radical concept in the deeply divided society of 18th century England. This new, organized form of Freemasonry spread with the speed and intensity of a wildfire. Within a decade, lodges operating under the authority of the Grand Lodge of England were being established not only across Britain but throughout Europe and in the American colonies. Its message of self-improvement, fellowship, and rational inquiry resonated powerfully with the spirit of the age. It attracted an eclectic and influential membership, from aristocrats and military officers to merchants and intellectuals. The fraternity became a key social network, a place for making connections, conducting business, and debating the revolutionary new ideas that were sweeping the Western world. However, this rapid expansion was not without its conflicts. The establishment of the Grand Lodge was seen by some traditionalists as a betrayal of ancient customs, leading to a major schism and the formation of a rival Grand Lodge of Antians in 1751, who claimed to practice a more authentic form of masonry. This rivalry between the ancients and the moderns, as the original Grand Lodge members came to be known, would define English Freemasonry for over 60 years. It was a battle for the soul of the craft, a struggle between tradition and innovation that ultimately forced both sides to refine their rituals and philosophies. strengthening the institution as a whole. While the documented history of Freemasonry begins in the 1700s, its mythology reaches much further back into the mists of time, anchoring its traditions in a narrative of immense antiquity and sacred purpose. The central and most powerful origin myth within the craft is the story of the building of King Solomon's Temple in Jerusalem, as described in the Old Testament. According to Masonic legend, the temple was constructed by a master architect from Tyre named Hiram Abiff, who organized the vast workforce into different grades or degrees, each with its own secret signs and tokens to signify their level of skill. This allegorical framework forms the very core of Masonic ritual and identity. The legend of Hiram Abiff is the centerpiece of the Master Mason degree, the third and highest of the foundational degrees in the lodge. The story recounts how Hiram, the only one who knew the ultimate secrets of a Master Mason, was accosted by three ruffians, unskilled craftsmen who demanded he reveal the secrets to them. When he refused, they murdered him and buried his body in an unmarked grave. The tale then follows King Solomon's search for the lost secrets and the discovery of his master builder's body. This dramatic allegory is not taught as literal history but as a profound lesson in fidelity, integrity, and the certainty of life after death. This foundational myth serves a critical purpose. By tracing their spiritual lineage back to the builders of this sacred structure, Freemasons imbue their fraternity with a timeless significance. They are not merely members of an 18th century social club, they are the inheritors of an ancient and noble tradition of building, both literally and metaphorically. The Temple of Solomon becomes the ultimate symbol of the lodge itself, a place built and dedicated to God, where order is brought from chaos, and where individuals work together in harmony to create something of divine and lasting beauty. Every lodge, in a symbolic sense, is a recreation of that original temple. Some Masons and esoteric historians take these connections even further, suggesting that the fraternity's roots are older still. They propose links to the Knights Templar, the warrior monks of the Crusades who were said to have discovered ancient knowledge beneath the ruins of Solomon's Temple. Others trace Masonic ideas to the mystery schools of ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome, or even to the Pythagorean Brotherhood. While these claims are historically unsubstantiated, they contribute to the powerful mystique of the organization, wrapping its origins in a cloak of profound antiquity and hinting at a secret wisdom passed down through the ages, waiting to be rediscovered by the worthy initiate. As Freemasonry solidified its structure in Europe, its ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity found fertile ground across the Atlantic Ocean, in the British colonies of North America. The principles of the Enlightenment discussed in the lodges of London and Paris were the same principles that fueled the revolutionary spirit of American colonists. The lodge became a crucial meeting place for the men who would become the architects of a new nation. Here, away from the prying eyes of British authorities, men like George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Paul Revere, and John Hancock could gather, debate, and forge the bonds of trust essential for the coming rebellion. The influence of Freemasonry on the American Revolution is undeniable, even if its precise role is debated by historians. A staggering number of key figures were members of the craft. 13 of the 39 signers of the Constitution were Masons, and George Washington himself was the master of his lodge in Alexandria, Virginia. He took his presidential oath on a Bible from St. John's Lodge and laid the cornerstone of the Capitol building in full Masonic ceremony in 1793. The fraternity provided a ready-made network for communication and organization among the colonies, uniting leaders from different regions under common values. After the Revolution, Freemasonry became deeply interwoven into the fabric of the new United States. It was seen as a quasi-official institution that promoted Republican virtues necessary for the young democracy: morality, civic duty, religious tolerance, and patriotism. For many, to be a good Mason was to be a good American. The symbols of the craft, such as the all-seeing eye and the unfinished pyramid, were incorporated into the Great Seal of the United States, cementing the link between the fraternity and the nation it helped to create. The rapid spread of Freemasonry in America planted the seeds of future suspicion. As members populated the highest offices of government, business, and the military, some began to fear the fraternity was becoming a secret elite, a shadow government whose loyalty to each other superseded duty to the public. This early history established a duality that continues today. Was Freemasonry a bedrock of liberty and civic virtue, or the first special interest group, operating behind the scenes to shape a nation's destiny? Freemasonry communicates its deepest principles not through plain doctrine, but through a rich language of symbolism. To enter a Masonic lodge is to step into a world where every object, every gesture, and every word is imbued with deeper meaning. This symbolic vocabulary is the bedrock of the entire Masonic system, a universal language that transcends barriers, uniting its members in shared understanding. The symbols are not decorations. They are tools for contemplation designed to provoke thought and guide the individual Mason on a personal journey of intellectual and spiritual discovery, unlocking truths about himself and his place in the universe. The core of this system is drawn from simple tools of the medieval stonemason: the gavel, the plumb line. The level and the trowel are all transformed from physical construction into emblems of moral conduct. The gavel brings order to the lodge, represents controlling one's passions. The plumb line ensures walls are true, becomes a symbol of uprightness. This transformation of mundane into profound is the genius of Masonic teaching, making abstract ideals tangible and memorable. This reliance on symbolism serves a crucial function. It allows Freemasonry to convey its tenets without dogmatic assertions. The meaning of a symbol is not dictated, it is explored by the individual. This open-ended approach fosters intellectual freedom, encouraging a Mason to think, rather than accept prescribed beliefs. It respects the conscience of each member, allowing men of different faiths to find personal resonance within the shared framework. Ultimately, the language of symbolism acts as a veil concealing lessons from the outside while revealing them to the initiated. This secrecy is not hiding sinister agenda, but ensuring lessons are valued by those who prove worthy. By requiring an initiate to learn this language, Freemasonry ensures teachings are earned, not simply given. The symbols are a key that unlocks a door, but each man must turn that key himself, embarking on his unique path toward light and self-improvement. Of all the symbols in Freemasonry's vast lexicon, none is more central, more ubiquitous, or more instantly recognizable than the square and compass. This emblem, often depicted with the letter G at its center, is the universal trademark of the fraternity, displayed on its buildings, its rings, and its official documents. It is the primary symbol presented to every new Mason, and its lessons are revisited throughout his journey through the degrees. It is far more than a mere logo. It is the very distillation of Masonic philosophy, a visual summary of the core relationship between a man's earthly duties and his higher spiritual aspirations. The square, an instrument used by stonemasons to test the accuracy of right angles and ensure that a stone is perfectly cut, is a powerful symbol of morality, truth, and honesty. In Masonic teachings, it serves as a constant reminder to square our actions with the principles of virtue and to behave with fairness and integrity toward all of humankind. It represents the earthly, material, and moral obligations of a man. To act on the square is a phrase that has entered common parlance, directly derived from Masonic tradition, meaning to be fair and straightforward. It is the tool that helps build a solid and dependable foundation for one's character. The compass, by contrast, is a tool used to draw circles and define boundaries. In its speculative meaning, it represents the spiritual, intellectual, and ethereal aspect of human nature. It symbolizes the importance of circumscribing one's desires and keeping one's passions within due bounds. It reminds a Mason to set limits for his conduct and to maintain self-control, drawing a circle around himself that he will not overstep. While the square relates to our conduct with others in society, the compass relates to our internal duty to ourselves and to a higher power, often referred to in Masonic terms as the great architect of the universe. The interplay between these two tools is where the deepest meaning lies. In the various degrees of Freemasonry, the positions of the square and compass are changed, symbolizing the initiate's progress. As a Mason advances, the points of the compass are elevated above the square, signifying the growing importance of spiritual and intellectual concerns over earthly and material ones. The letter G at the center is often said to stand for both geometry, the science upon which the craft of Masonry is founded, and God, the supreme being to whom all Masons must profess a belief. Together they form a complete guide for a well-lived life, balancing moral duty with spiritual consciousness. Among the most controversial and widely discussed Masonic symbols is the all-seeing eye, often depicted within a triangle or floating above an unfinished pyramid. This potent image has become a focal point for conspiracy theories, largely due to its prominent placement on the reverse of the United States $1 bill. To critics, it is the emblem of a secret cabal, a symbol of surveillance and hidden control, representing the watchful eye of a Masonic elite that governs from the shadows. This interpretation has fueled endless speculation about the fraternity's influence over global finance and government, turning a symbol of divinity into an icon of sinister power. Within Freemasonry itself, however, the all-seeing eye, or the Eye of Providence, holds a very different and far less conspiratorial meaning. It is a symbol of the omniscience of God, the great architect of the universe. It represents the divine watchfulness that observes all of a person's thoughts and actions, reminding a Mason that he can hide nothing from the Supreme Being, and that he will be held accountable for his deeds. The eye is not the eye of the Illuminati or of a human master, but the eye of a higher moral authority. It serves as a constant reminder of the importance of living a life of truth and integrity, even when no human is watching. The unfinished pyramid, upon which the eye often floats, is another symbol rich with meaning, though its direct connection to formal Masonic ritual is more debated than that of the eye. In a broader symbolic sense, the pyramid represents strength, endurance, and the pursuit of perfection. The fact that it is unfinished is crucial. It signifies that the great work of humanity and the personal work of the individual Mason is never complete. There is always more to learn, more to build, and a higher state of enlightenment to strive for. It is an emblem of progress, perpetual effort, and the aspirational nature of building a better world and a better self. While Benjamin Franklin was the only known Freemason on the committee that designed the Great Seal, the symbols they chose were common in the artistic and philosophical currents of the 18th century, and were not exclusively Masonic. However, their meanings align so perfectly with Masonic principles that the association has become indelible. For Masons, the combination of the eye and pyramid symbolizes a nation and a person under divine guidance, striving toward a more perfect future that is yet to be completed. It is a symbol not of sinister control, but of hopeful and ongoing creation, a testament to the enduring human project of building a more enlightened society. Ritual is the beating heart of the Masonic experience, the mechanism through which its symbolic lessons are brought to life. These rituals are not dry academic proceedings, they are elaborate, theatrical ceremonies performed from memory and passed down through generations. The most important of these are the initiation rites for the first 3 degrees: Entered Apprentice, Fellowcraft, and Master Mason. Each degree is a carefully constructed one-act play in which the candidate is the central character. He is led, often blindfolded, through a series of symbolic challenges, lectures, and obligations designed to impress the fraternity's moral teachings upon his mind and heart. The initiation ceremony is a deeply symbolic journey. The candidate's state of blindness, known as hoodwinking, represents his former ignorance and darkness before seeking Masonic light. His state of dress, being neither naked nor clad, symbolizes his poverty and dependence on the fraternity's charity and guidance. He is ceremonially divested of all medals, signifying that he brings no worldly wealth or status into the lodge and meets his new brothers on a level of perfect equality. Every element of the ritual, from the way he knocks on the door to the path he walks around the lodge room, is part of a choreographed allegory representing the journey of life and the quest for knowledge. At the core of these rituals are the oaths, or obligations, that the candidate must take. This is perhaps the most secretive and controversial aspect of Masonic practice. In these solemn promises, the candidate swears to uphold the principles of the fraternity and, most famously, to never reveal the secret signs, tokens, and words of the degree to the uninitiated. Historically, these oaths included graphic symbolic penalties for their violation, such as having one's throat cut or one's heart torn out. While Masons insist these are purely symbolic and are no longer used in many jurisdictions, they have contributed significantly to the fraternity's sinister reputation among its critics. But what is the true purpose of this secret theater? Masons contend that the rituals are designed to be a transformative personal experience. By engaging the candidate's senses and emotions through drama and symbolism, the lessons are imparted in a way that is far more profound and lasting than simply reading them in a book. The secrecy surrounding the rituals serves to heighten their impact and to create a powerful, lifelong bond among those who have shared the same unique experience. For its members, these are not sinister ceremonies but sacred rites of passage, ancient and beautiful plays that teach a man how to build a better life, one symbolic stone at a time. Throughout history, Freemasonry's membership has included some of the most influential figures in politics, culture, and revolution. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and Winston Churchill were all Masons, as were artists like Mozart and thinkers like Voltaire. The fraternity's reach spans continents and centuries, forming a network that's hard to ignore. Is this simply a gathering of ambitious men, or does Freemasonry actively cultivate power? Supporters say the lodge attracts men of character seeking self-improvement and fellowship. Critics argue it's a strategic network, an exclusive club where members help each other climb the ranks of society. The secrecy and loyalty oaths, they claim, create an invisible web of influence. Whether sanctuary or springboard, the lodge's role in shaping leaders is undeniable. The question remains, does Freemasonry merely attract the powerful, or help create them? Freemasonry insists it's a fraternity, not a power structure. Grand lodges highlight their charitable work and strict ban on politics and religion within the lodge. They claim their teachings foster better citizens, not conspirators. But the bonds formed through secret rituals and oaths can spill into the outside world. Critics warn of favoritism, judges, business leaders, and politicians giving preference to fellow Masons. This blurs the line between brotherhood and backroom dealing. Even without a grand conspiracy, the fraternity's structure can foster cronyism. Outsiders often see a magic circle of influence that's hard to penetrate. Whether intentional or not, Freemasonry's network shapes perceptions and perhaps realities of hidden power. Some accuse Freemasonry of being more than a network of secretly steering world events. Theories link the fraternity to the Illuminati and a supposed New World Order. Masonic symbols like the all-seeing eye are cited as evidence of a global plot. Masons dismiss these claims, pointing to their decentralized structure and lack of unified agenda. Yet secrecy fuels suspicion. What happens behind closed doors is unknowable to outsiders. The ambiguity persists: fraternity or hidden hand. The truth remains shrouded, feeding endless speculation. Freemasonry's secrecy and influence have made it a perennial scapegoat. In times of crisis, it's blamed for everything from revolutions to moral decline. Authoritarian regimes have targeted Masons as threats to their power, accusing them of subversion. The fraternity is painted as both a radical force and a reactionary cabal, depending on the accuser. Its secrecy invites wild speculation. Mundane meetings become sinister plots in the public imagination. This vacuum of knowledge is filled with fear and rumor. Freemasonry's privacy, meant to protect its rituals, has instead fueled centuries of suspicion. The result, a shadowy reputation that endures regardless of reality. The Catholic Church has long been one of Freemasonry's fiercest critics. Since the 18th century, popes have condemned the fraternity, forbidding Catholics from joining. The Church objects to Masonry's religious indifferentism and secret oaths, seeing them as threats to Catholic doctrine and loyalty. Masonic lodges, especially in 19th century Europe, often became centers of anti-clerical sentiment, deepening the rift. Despite occasional dialogue, the Church's ban remains in force. This condemnation has shaped public perception, casting Freemasonry as a godless, conspiratorial force. The centuries-old conflict continues to color the craft's image worldwide. In the Arab world, Freemasonry is often accused of being a tool of Zionism and Western colonialism. Conspiracy theories link the fraternity to Israeli interests and globalist plots, fueled by propaganda and historical mistrust. The use of Old Testament symbolism is twisted into proof of secret agendas. As a result, Freemasonry is banned or forced underground in most Muslim-majority countries. Masonic organizations reject these claims, insisting their symbolism is allegorical and inclusive. Yet, in a region shaped by conflict and suspicion, the myth of Freemasonry as a foreign agent persists. The fraternity's true nature remains obscured by powerful, politically charged narratives. Perhaps the most lurid and sensational accusation leveled against Freemasonry is that it is, at its highest levels, a form of satanic worship. This theory, posits that while lower-degree Masons are kept in the dark with moral platitudes, initiates who ascend to the highest echelons of the craft are gradually introduced to the true secret that the Masonic deity, the great architect of the universe, is in fact Lucifer. This idea gained enormous traction in the late 19th century due to a massive, elaborate hoax perpetrated by a Frenchman named Leo Taxil, who claimed to be a former Mason, exposing the craft's devil-worshipping inner core. Taxil's fabricated stories were filled with Graphic details of demonic rituals, black masses, and conversations with devils, all supposedly taking place within Masonic lodges. He even invented a character named Diana Vaughn, a supposed high-ranking Palladian Mason who had repented and was now revealing the sect's secrets. For over a decade, Taxil's writings were widely circulated and even received praise from elements within the Catholic Church. In 1897, he publicly confessed that the entire story was a fabrication designed to mock both Freemasonry and the Catholic Church's gullibility. Yet, despite his confession, the ideas he unleashed took on a life of their own. The Taxil hoax, as it came to be known, permanently embedded the idea of Masonic Satanism into the DNA of modern conspiracy culture. The accusation was revived with great force during the Satanic Panic of the 1980s and 1990s in the United States and continues to be propagated by some fundamentalist Christian groups and online conspiracy theorists today. They often point to the writings of Albert Pike, an influential 19th-century American Masonic scholar, quoting his philosophical speculations out of context to prove that Masons worship Lucifer, whom they misinterpret as Satan, rather than the symbolic light-bearer of enlightenment. For Freemasons, this accusation is the most offensive and honestly absurd of all. They adamantly state that a belief in a monotheistic God is a primary requirement for membership and that their teachings are centered on morality, virtue, and charity, the very antithesis of Satanism. However, the charge persists because it taps into a deep-seated fear of the occult and the unknown. It transforms a fraternity of local community members into a terrifying cabal of evil, providing a simple, albeit terrifying explanation for the presence of evil in the world. The shadow of Satanism, born from a century-old lie, continues to be a dark and persistent stain on the fraternity's public image. After navigating the labyrinthine corridors of history, symbolism, and conspiracy, we arrive at the ultimate question. What is the truth of Freemasonry? The answer is perhaps less sensational than the myths, yet more complex than a simple dismissal of all accusations. The first truth is that Freemasonry is indeed secretive, but it is crucial to understand that it is a fraternity with secrets, not a secret society in the truest sense. Its existence is not hidden. Its lodges are often prominent buildings in towns and cities, their locations publicly listed. Its members do not conceal their affiliation, often wearing rings or emblems that proudly display the square and compass for all to see. The secrecy is not about hiding their existence but about protecting the specific content of their rituals. This distinction is fundamental. A true secret society, like a clandestine revolutionary cell, hides its members, its locations, and its very existence to achieve its goals. Freemasonry, by contrast, operates in the open. The secrets it guards are the modes of recognition, the handshakes, signs, and passwords, and the allegorical dramas of its degree ceremonies. Masons argue this secrecy serves a specific purpose, to create a unique and shared experience that binds men together in a common bond of brotherhood. It ensures that every man who joins undergoes the same journey of discovery, making the lessons more impactful and the fellowship more profound. It is the secrecy of a private club, not a hidden cabal. So why then does the mystery persist so powerfully? The primary reason is that secrecy itself acts as a powerful catalyst for curiosity and imagination. The moment something is declared secret, human nature compels us to wonder what is being hidden, and our minds tend to imagine the most dramatic possibilities. Over the course of 3 centuries, this natural curiosity has been amplified by historical events, political propaganda, and deliberate hoaxes. The vacuum of knowledge created by the fraternity's code of silence has been eagerly filled with the most elaborate and sinister myths, because a story about a global conspiracy is far more compelling than the mundane reality of a charitable fraternity. This dynamic creates a self-perpetuating cycle of suspicion. The Masons' refusal to publicly detail their rituals, a stance they take to preserve the integrity of the initiatory experience, is interpreted by critics as proof that they have something terrible to hide. Every denial is seen as a deflection, every explanation as part of a larger cover-up. The fraternity finds itself in a difficult position. The very method it uses to impart its moral lessons is the primary fuel for the accusations against it. The truth, therefore, is not just about what Freemasonry is, but also about understanding how the human psychology of secrecy has shaped its public perception into a legend. When we strip away the layers of myth and legend, what is left is an organization that is far more ordinary than its reputation suggests. The vast majority of Freemasons are not global power brokers or occult masters, but ordinary citizens from all walks of life. They are doctors, electricians, teachers, lawyers, police officers, and soldiers who join the lodge for fellowship, tradition, and personal growth. They meet regularly to perform centuries-old rituals, share a meal, plan local charity events, and enjoy community with men they consider brothers. For most members, it is a hobby and a commitment, not a path to world domination. The supposed power of Freemasonry today is largely overstated. The fraternity was once a crucial network for the elite, but its influence has waned considerably in the modern era. The rise of social clubs, professional organizations, and online communities has diminished the lodge's unique role. Membership numbers in North America and Europe have been in steady decline for decades. The image of a powerful unified global network is at odds with the reality of an aging membership struggling to keep local lodges open. The culture of secrecy can lead to old boys club mentality, fostering cronyism in local business or politics. However, these issues are a far cry from sensational claims of orchestrating wars or worshipping Satan. The truth of Masonic influence is likely found in smaller, localized instances rather than grand conspiracy. The truth of Freemasonry may not be as exciting as the myths, but it is also not as sinister. It is a complex global fraternity with rich history and moral symbolism. That secrecy has made it a perfect screen for our greatest fears about power and control. The reality is that the secrets are not about a hidden agenda, but about a shared journey. The greatest danger the myths pose is that they obscure a more interesting truth, how an ancient stonemasons guild transformed into an enduring global brotherhood. We have now traveled through the shadowed corridors of Masonic history, from its humble origins in the stonemasons guilds to its status as a global fraternity of influence and intrigue. We have examined its sacred language of symbols, the square and compass that guide its moral philosophy, and the all-seeing eye that has inspired both reverence and fear. We have listened to the whispers of conspiracy that accuse it of manipulating revolutions, controlling governments, and serving a hidden, sinister master. We have contrasted these dark myths with the fraternity's own narrative of brotherhood, charity, and the noble pursuit of self-improvement. The journey has been one of stark and persistent contradictions. Freemasonry stands as a monument to duality. It is at once public and private, visible in every city yet veiled in impenetrable secrecy. It is a brotherhood that preaches universal love and tolerance, yet has been condemned by powerful religious institutions for its perceived threat to faith. Its members have been revolutionaries who fought for liberty and enlightenment, and they have been the pillars of the establishment. Accused of forming a self-serving elite, it is a name tied inextricably to the light of reason and the advancement of human knowledge, while simultaneously being linked to the darkness of occult plots and clandestine power plays, a paradox that has defined it for 3 centuries. The truth, it seems, is not a simple verdict of guilty or innocent. The evidence suggests that Freemasonry is not the single monolithic entity that its critics imagine. It is a decentralized, multifaceted organization with millions of members whose personal motivations and experiences vary enormously. The reality for a Mason in a small town in Ohio is vastly different from the historical role played by the Grand Lodges of 18th century Paris. To paint the entire fraternity with a single brush, whether of pure benevolence or pure malevolence, is to ignore the rich, complex, and often contradictory tapestry of its existence across different cultures and eras. What we are left with is an institution that is perhaps exactly what it appears to be on the surface, a system of morality, veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols. The true secret may be that there is no great secret beyond the personal journey of an individual seeking to live a more virtuous and examined life. Yet, the secrecy itself, the power of its symbolism, and its undeniable historical association with the world's most influential figures ensure that it will forever remain an object of suspicion. The enigma endures not because the truth is necessarily hidden, but because the shadows it casts are so vast and so deep. So we return to where we began, standing before the closed doors of the lodge, the echo of its mysterious name in the air. We have seen the evidence presented, from the historical records of its founding to the sensational claims of its detractors. We have weighed the official narrative of a philanthropic brotherhood against the persistent accusations of a hidden hand guiding the course of world events. The journey through the secrets, symbols, and shadows of Freemasonry has provided many answers, but it has ultimately led us to a single, final destination, a question that cannot be answered by any narrator or historian. It must be answered by you. Is Freemasonry a benign fraternity, a global community of men dedicated to making themselves better and supporting their communities through charity and fellowship? Is its secrecy merely a tool to make its moral lessons more profound and to foster a unique bond of brotherhood among its members, an innocent tradition that has been unfairly maligned? Do you see the square and compass as simple tools for building a better character, and the all-seeing eye as a harmless symbol of divine watchfulness, a reminder to live an honest and upright life? Is it in the end just a group of good men trying to do good things, or do you see something more? Does the weight of history, the sheer number of powerful men who have been members, suggest a deeper and more deliberate network of influence? Do the secret oaths and rituals seem to be more than just symbolic theater, pointing instead to a dangerous allegiance that transcends loyalty to nation and law? Does the persistent condemnation from powerful institutions and the endless stream of conspiracy theories suggest that where there is so much smoke, there must be fire? Is Freemasonry the hidden hand behind the curtain, the architects of a future the rest of us are not meant to see? You have seen the symbols, you have heard the claims, you have explored the history. Now the final question remains, and it is the only one that truly matters. The evidence is before you, the arguments have been made, and the journey into the heart of the mystery is complete. After peeling back the layers of myth and truth, of light and darkness, there is nothing left for us to say. The final judgment rests with you. What do you believe?